1845. The British Empire was at its peak. The maps of the world were almost complete. Only one last blank space remained. A frozen labyrinth at the top of the world, the Northwest Passage. To conquer it meant glory. So, the Royal Navy sent their very best. 2 ships, HMS Erebus and HMS Terror. These were not ordinary wooden ships. They were war machines, reinforced with iron, equipped with steam engines, central heating, and canned provisions, enough for 3 years. 129 men, led by a living legend, Sir John Franklin. They sailed into the ice and vanished completely, without a trace. This is not the story of a ghost ship. It is the story of 2 ships and 129 souls, swallowed by the silence. This is the mystery of the lost Franklin expedition. To understand what happened, we must understand what they were up against. The Northwest Passage is not an open ocean. It is a trap, a deadly maze of islands and sea ice. In the summer, it breaks apart. In the winter, it freezes solid enough to crush a ship like a toy. Sir John Franklin knew the danger. He was 59 years old, a hero. But his ships were the real stars, Erebus and Terror. They were the most advanced technology of their time. They were built to win. Summer, 1845. They were last seen by whalers in Baffin Bay, waiting for the ice to clear to enter the maze. Then, silence. 1 year passed, no word. This was normal. The voyage was planned for 3 years. A second year passed. The silence began to feel heavy. The third year, 1848, worry turned to fear. The Royal Navy launched the search. It would become the largest rescue operation in history. Dozens of ships, thousands of men, driven by one woman, Franklin's wife, Lady Jane Franklin. She poured her entire fortune into finding her husband. For years, they found nothing, just ice and silence. In 1850, they found the first trace, on Beechy Island, a wintering camp from their first year. There were 3 graves, neatly buried. The men had died of tuberculosis. A tragedy, but not a disaster. Everything seemed normal. They found stacks of tin cans, over 600 of them. They found abandoned equipment, but there was no note, no clue as to where they went next. The search continued, and in 1854, the first horrifying news arrived. Not from the Navy, but from an explorer named John Ray. He was not looking for Franklin, he was mapping the coastline. He met local Inuit. They had items, a silver lighter case, naval buttons. They belonged to Franklin's men. The Inuit told a story. A few years earlier, they had seen a group of 40 white men hauling a boat south. They were thin and desperate. Later, the next spring, the Inuit found the bodies, over 30 of them, some in tents, some outside, some under an overturned boat. And then, the final grisly evidence, fragmented remains in cooking pots, cut marks on the bones. John Ray's report shocked London. Cannibalism, the unthinkable. The British Royal Navy would never. The public was outraged. Charles Dickens publicly called John Ray a liar. They needed proof. They needed an explanation. In 1859, a search ship funded by Lady Franklin found it on King William Island. A message hidden in a stone cairn. It is the Victory Point Note, the Rosetta Stone of the tragedy. The paper had 2 messages. The first message, written in May 1847, all well. The ships, Erebus and Terror, were trapped in the ice, but they were safe. But around the margins of the paper was a second message, written almost a year later, April 1848, in a different, shaking hand, a hand of desperation. It said, The ships had been trapped in the ice for 1.5 years. Sir John Franklin was dead. In total, 24 officers and men were dead. And the 105 survivors had abandoned the ships. They were attempting to walk to a trading post hundreds of miles to the south. It was a suicide march, and they knew it. They dragged heavy lifeboats filled with useless things, silver cutlery, curtain rods, books. They walked and they died, one by one, on a death march hundreds of miles long. The mystery seemed solved. Trapped by ice, ran out of food, tried to walk, failed. But it didn't add up. They had food for 3 years. They had only been there for 2. Why would they starve? For 150 years, that was the question. Until modern science found the bodies. The bodies buried on Beachy Island, perfectly preserved in the permafrost. They were autopsied. They found tuberculosis, but they also found something else, something shocking. Lead. Massive, toxic levels of lead. 10 times the normal amount. The source? Those tin cans. 3 years' worth of food sealed with lead solder. The Franklin expedition wasn't just fighting the ice. They were fighting their own supplies. They were being slowly poisoned from the inside. It explains the confusion. It explains the bad decisions. A lead-induced madness, combined with scurvy. It was a perfect storm of disaster. And the ships? For decades, they remained lost. Until very recently. In 2014, Erebus was found. In 2016, Terror was found. Both on the ocean floor, nearly pristine, preserved by the icy water. But they were found hundreds of miles south of where the Victory Point note said they were. This opens one final mystery. Who went back? Who sailed those ships to their final resting place? We will never know. The tragedy of the Franklin expedition was not a single event. It was a slow death, a 3-year collapse. 129 men with the world's best technology and the pride of an empire were defeated. Not by a monster or a curse. They were defeated by ice and a faulty piece of solder. The most terrifying story isn't the scream. It is the silence as the last hope slowly disappears.